as usual. I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide. Welcome to another live video here on YouTube. Today we're going to be talking about vocabulary. I know people enjoy doing this. The problem is people spend a lot of time learning vocabulary but don't remember it. So hopefully I can show you how to do that with some interesting slang today. I have a couple of examples I'd like to share, but if you also have things that maybe you don't understand that I can help you understand better so you can use them fluently, let me know. All right, so we'll give people a moment. Looks like we are live though. Well, Diana, nice to see you there from Mexico. Hopefully you are enjoying your day. I want to get right into it, and then at the end of the video, if people have any questions about other things, they can ask. All right, so just for people who may not know, slang is just really meanings of words that might not be like typically, for example, something that people would use normally, like the regular meaning of a word. So we might have a word you probably know, like cool, but we're going to use it in a different way that means like something interesting or something popular. Or we can even have slang like something that, like we can have a word like good, or we can have a word. These are all very basic words. Little children would know these words. So bad could actually mean good, depending on the situation. Now, a lot of people probably know these kinds of slang words or slang usages of words, but I wanted to cover some different ones that maybe you might not know. And remember that the ability to speak doesn't really come from just knowing a lot of words. It comes from being able to know them well. So the point is not the size of your vocabulary, but how well you use it. So let's talk about some different words here that you may or may not know, but hopefully I can help you use them more fluently and think about them in more interesting ways. I guess we'll go with our blue marker here. So the first example I wanted to go for is a crash. Now, when you think about this meaning, can you think of some regular or maybe just kind of average or everyday uses of it? Crashing typically means like some kind of loud sound or some kind of physical reaction where something is going and hitting something else, like a car crash. So two cars are hitting each other very quickly. So that's the typical meaning of it. Can you think of some other slang uses though? I figured I would ask you first if you have any ideas, or maybe you've heard some slang uses of crash. And again, we could be taking a word like this where, again, it means usually some kind of physical thing like this, but we can have a more maybe interesting use of the word. So I'll go back through comments just saying hello and welcome to people. If you have any idea about how we might use this in a different way, some other situations, not just a physical kind of crashing like that, when we might use this word. Adriana from Brazil. Ricardo, nice to see you there. Faye, good morning from Melbourne. Look at that. We got people in Australia. Let's see. Diana says, I'm working. I love your videos. What do you do? You're working while you watch this. And Avlog says, Assalamu alaikum from Uzbekistan. And Freddie from Galveston, Texas. Ricardo from Brazil. Sergio, nice to see you there. Funny, Haiti. That's an interesting name. How are you? I'm doing well. Let's see. Why Fun, nice to see you there. And Fernando from Chile. And Bump, says Mike. Well, we could bump something, but typically crash would be a stronger reaction. So if two cars just bump each other, there's not much of a thing. Maybe even if you're in a parking space. So here's a car over here, and here's another car over here, and I'm trying to park my car. I might accidentally bump one of these cars, so hit it very gently. That would be more of a bump. But if I crash into another car, that's a much different thing. So typically crash, you can think about this like another common usage of the term, like to wreck. You mean wreck? Like to wreck a car, something like that. Crash is typically the moment when something changes in a dramatic way. So we're trying to have a kind of broader usage or broader understanding of the word. For example, let's say we're talking about the stock market. A stock is going up, so the price of a particular stock like Microsoft or Google or whatever, and then suddenly, bam, something happens right here. There is some moment that happens, there's a crash, and then, oh no, there's a dramatic shift. So we're not talking about a stock going up and then kind of going down like that. We're talking about something more dramatic, just like rather than a bump between two cars, we have a crash between those two things, all right? So in a similar sort of way, another slang usage of the word crash is like when you're feeling very tired, so you get home from work and then you just crash on the sofa. So on the couch, whatever you want to call it. But this is where we're feeling good, you know, we're kind of tired or something, and boom, the energy just drops. We fall asleep very quickly. We crash. We crash. We can also use this when we're talking about staying at someone else's house. Like I have a friend of mine staying at my house, and he says, "Oh, can I crash? Also, like, you know, stay for the night at your place. So can I crash?" All right, so we can also have a meaning of like to show up unexpectedly, like crashing a wedding. There's even a movie called Wedding Crashers where we're talking about crashing a party or crashing a wedding, something like that, where we show up uninvited. Again, if you think about all these different examples together, it's usually something dramatic. We're not sneaking in. We're just like, hey, I'm here. I'm kind of crashing the party in the same way. It's not like attending a party. It's showing up unexpected. So maybe we weren't invited to the party, but we're showing up anyway. So we want to go to the party, and maybe a wedding, like the movie Wedding Crashers is about two friends who go to different weddings because it's fun to go. So usually you have a lot of people at the wedding and people are invited and you don't really know who's going there. But if you find out, oh, there's a wedding happening, you can crash, something like that. Well, we got another example from Bayou about crash course. So a crash course in something where we're talking about learning something, a crash course. So a crash course in something is how I'm going to teach you something very quickly. So if we're about to go do something and I need to teach you very quickly how to do it, there's a war happening and now I'm going to teach you how to fire a gun. And maybe it's your first time shooting a gun. I say, okay, here's a crash course in how to use a gun. I'm just going to give you that information very quickly. So notice here the themes of all these things, the thing that connects all these, it's usually something happening very quickly, something dramatic happens, something very different. So we're not sneaking into a wedding, we're just going there and we're just, hey, like, you know, I'm here at the wedding. You might not make a big deal out of that, but the point is you're showing up at this wedding. So you're attending the wedding, but it's something you're not supposed to be doing. So to crash. Again, we're having some kind of event, something happens, and then there's a dramatic shift in some way. Creative says, can you explain the word close? Close or close? Which one are you talking about? Let me go through these examples, and if you're looking for more examples later, remind me at the end of the video. So if anybody has any questions about that, let me know, but this is a very good way of understanding the word, and notice as you get these different examples of it, you can feel more confident about using the word because you understand the word itself better. So whenever you hear a crash, you can think, oh, there's a sudden change or something like that. So gate crash would mean if you're trying to, again, break into something physically like that same kind of idea. All right, pretty easy though. Pretty easy. The point is not to know a lot of difficult vocabulary, it's to know how to use the vocabulary well. Close as in being near something or close. When the door is, well, closed, if you're talking about a door being closed, that's just the opposite of open, so open and close. But if you're close, it means you're near something. Pretty simple. Let me know if there's something you don't understand about that. So close typically is just like if I'm getting close to the camera like that, now I'm getting far, like near and far, or close and far, like that, close. Let's see, next example, ghost. To ghost something, or to ghost someone, I should say, to ghost. Any idea what that means? Have you heard that before? To ghost someone. So the general meaning of a ghost, you can think about it like a regular. I guess that's supposed to be a ghost, kind of scary, a scary ghost right there. So a ghost is something that can disappear, and sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. And so the typical slang, this is a more recent usage of the term about to ghost someone, where it's basically meaning you disappear. But typically, it's like when you're having a conversation with someone, like let's say I'm having a text conversation with someone. I meet a girl at a party, for example. So I'm having a conversation. I say like, hi. And she says, oh, hello, or, we're kind of talking back and forth, and I say something, and then she never responds again. She ghosted me. She ghosted me. All right. So maybe I hear from someone, we're talking a little bit, and then I never hear from them again. They ghosted me. So they disappeared. It's just another way of saying like that person disappeared. I didn't hear from them again. Pretty simple idea, to ghost someone. But now it becomes, instead of the noun here, like a ghost, like a physical thing, or a ghost, a scary thing, we have the verb to ghost someone. So it's not necessarily avoiding, it's like you completely cut contact with that person. So this is typically used, you'll hear this in dating. So lots of people now, they do online dating, or they're using little like Tinder or matching applications. But you might meet someone and start talking with them and then just suddenly cut communication. So you don't say why, you don't give a reason, you don't explain anything. It's just, that's it. You ghosted them. All right. So that's an interesting use of that. You can say that the person just disappeared, but this is a more common usage that's getting more popular now, to ghost someone. Pretty simple. All right, we keep it moving. Next, to flex. Flex, flex, flex. Have you heard this before? Flex. So their typical, usual, everyday meaning of flex is usually we've got some kind of bending action, or we can talk about being flexible. So if something can move, so this marker is not flexible. I can't bend it very well. It's not flexible. But I might have something, let's see, what is flexible? Like this package of like wet tissues. I can bend it a little bit. It's a little bit flexible. And usually we have that for maybe harder things, like this little tray here. It's got some flexibility. I can bend it. You can say there's flex in this thing. I can move it around a little bit. Or we can also talk about flexing, like flexing a muscle. It's like, ooh, look at that. You can see, like a bodybuilder, something like that, to flex. But typically it's in this slang sense of the word when we're talking about flexing on someone else. So to flex on someone, or just talk about someone flexing in general, this is where we're talking about someone maybe boasting or bragging or something. So if I go to a party and a friend shows up where he has like a solid gold jacket on because he won the lottery or something like that. So he's very happy about that, and he wants to show everyone, look at that, look how much money I have. So I'm flexing, just like kind of demonstrating that for people. So it's an interesting progression from talking about the flexibility of something to flexing a particular muscle to show how big your muscles are, to flexing on anything. So you could flex, yes, it's basically like bragging or showing something. But you could do that in a number of ways. Like you could flex intellectually. So maybe you're trying to show how smart you are by the information you know, or you're trying to show the stuff you have, or whatever. You're at the I don't know, like a marina, so a place where you have some boats, and a guy, he comes with his extra large boat that's bigger than everybody else's, and he just wanted to say hello before going out, but he's basically flexing in a way, or at least some people might think he is. He's kind of bragging or boasting or showing off, to show off. There's another common phrasal verb here, to show off. So if you're showing off for other people, you're trying to demonstrate that you have some kind of talent or ability or money or something like that. To flex or to show off. Pretty simple idea. Let me know as I go through these if you have any questions about them. The next one is kind of interesting. I'm going to see what you think about this one before I share the answer here. Thirsty, thirsty. Now, what do you think that means? So there's the typical meaning of thirsty, like right now. I'm a little bit hot. I'm feeling kind of thirsty. I should have a drink over here. I'm thirsty. But what might be a slang usage of that? Have you heard this before? Like to call a person thirsty. What might that mean? So someone needs water? Well, that's a basic idea. Or they need something to drink. Maybe they need water. But I'm talking about the slang usage of it. Lust says by, that's an interesting one. Yeah. So when you're talking about being thirsty, it usually means you're desperate for something or someone. Like I'm thirsty for this particular woman or whatever. So I don't know, maybe I follow her on Instagram and I like all of her pictures and I just say, wow, you look amazing. I'm kind of trying very hard to show that I'm interested in her. I'm being thirsty. All right. Now, an interesting thing about this word, like to contrast it with something like being hungry. Now, thirsty, I was just thinking about this today when I was thinking of some words I might teach. And it's an interesting thing that thirsty typically has a more negative meaning. That thirsty doesn't mean you need money, although like you could be like thirsty for money, but it's typically more for like you're thirsty for something in a desperate way. Like you really need it and you're trying too hard, and it's like you really love again, the most common example is about being thirsty for a guy or thirsty for like a woman, something like that. So it's quite easy to see. Like if you go to well, you're already on YouTube, but if you search other videos like people being thirsty, then you will see examples of like news reporters talking with athletes or something. So it might be a female, like a woman news reporter talking with an athlete, and she's just looking at him like, oh my God, like I love you, something like that, where she's not looking professional and just talking. She's just like you can see it in her face that she's a little bit thirsty. And so this distinction here between thirsty being more of a negative idea and hungry being more of a positive idea is an interesting one. Let's see, Abdo says, wait for something interesting. Are you talking about being thirsty? Thirsty. Again, thirsty, like you know what you want and you're kind of like Bai said, like lusting after that thing, to lust in a way. But it's typically or most commonly used for talking about people. You're attracted to someone and you can't be kind of controlling yourself. You can't control yourself about it. So if you're thirsty for something, if we think about the difference between being thirsty and being hungry, as I was thinking about that this morning, thirsty is really something like if you don't have water, you can die very quickly from that. You can survive without food for longer. But thirsty is typically in this way because it's a desperate thing. If someone's really thirsty, I don't just mean like I'm a little bit thirsty and I need some water right now. I'm talking about like really like I'm that guy in the desert. I'm going to try to draw a picture of a thirsty face right now. So there's the regular face, like if I'm just thirsty for water, I'm a little bit hot like I am right now. But here's like a guy in a desert, and he's got his mouth like hanging open and like his tongue hanging out, and he's hoping to find some water or something like that. He's kind of crawling on the ground like that. It's a really bad picture, but imagine him like looking at a woman like that. So he's just like, oh my goodness. And often to be thirsty means usually a continuous thing. So you continue to maybe follow someone on Instagram or something like that, but it's not just like one day. So if I'm out at a park and I see an attractive woman walk by and I'm just like, oh, like I notice, I'm probably not going to do that, but But I might notice that. I'm not being thirsty. I'm just noticing something. But if every day I'm going and talking to a woman who works at a local flower shop, and I'm just like, oh, like I buy her flowers every day, even though I don't like flowers, and I'm kind of really trying to get to know her, but in a, like, often people will use this word now, cringe. It's a much more commonly word used now, like cringe, where you're talking about something it's like you're doing it too much. You're trying too hard. Yes, being a simp is another good good way to talk about it. But this is in particular, like it's like simp to a higher level. Like you're really being thirsty, thirsty for something. But interestingly, so you could be like thirsty for. So it would be thirsty for, or you can thirst after something. I'm like thirsting after some woman, or you can just call a person thirsty, like look at this guy. This guy is thirsty over here. Clearly, like very excited about something, whatever that is. But when you're hungry for something, and this is interesting, hungry is more of a positive thing. So we are talking about how we are like working hard, like I'm hungry for a better job, or I'm hungry for, whatever, like trying to achieve some, like I want to be, winning a gold medal in the Olympics. So I'm hungry for the gold. But we wouldn't talk about a person being thirsty for a gold medal, okay? So just an interesting thing about the difference here. Hungry, you can think about it's kind of a slang term, the same kind of idea, but again, thirsty is more of a negative term where you're doing something too much. It's like you're desperate, you're in the desert looking for water, you can't find any, and then you see a little bit of water, maybe that's real water, maybe it's not, but you just I need that water. So hungry versus thirsty. Hopefully that makes sense. So it's a pretty common thing, and I was just thinking about that this morning. How isn't it interesting that hungry is a good thing, or usually a good thing, but thirsty is not. All right, let me check chat, make sure I'm following along, see if I haven't missed any questions here. Look at that. Okay, I think I got everybody. Let's see. So flex car, gas, and ethanol, for example. Fex car. I don't know what that is. Fex? Is that a thing? Fex car. Ruber says, I've seen a lot of your videos, and most of the time you said natives learn from situations, but the problem is, how do I know what natives say in a particular situation, and how can I know what I don't know? Good question. And let's see, I hope your upcoming book will make me fluent in English. By the way, when will it be released? So I'm working on it right now, and I've spent actually the last maybe 2 years testing ideas and trying to explain it and figure out the best way to explain things in the book, because I don't know, I could go into detail if people are interested in that, but it should be released, at least the first version that people can download. So I want to get a early release version 1 of the book out. That way I can get feedback on it if people think, wow, this book is amazing, or, oh no, Drew, you need to change these parts because I don't understand something like that. I'm looking for that. I want to build the book with my learners. So hopefully people can, the first people to buy the book, if you are on my list, then you will get information about it. But yes, I talk about specifically in the book how you can get that. So let's say, perfect question there about how we can get information about what natives say in particular situations. And all we have to do, we can even go right here on YouTube and find that. Let's say I want to know what people say, what is the specific information, and the question is talking specifically like the typical way people learn is they use a translation in their native language. So let's say I'm a Japanese person trying to learn English. I would begin with something I want to say in Japanese and then get a translation of that in English. Now, what I want you to do instead, if you don't want to translate in your head while you speak, and this is what happens if you learn through translations, then you will speak through translations. So how you learn is how you speak. So instead of this way, we want to connect you with situations, like actually seeing what natives are doing, and then what is the vocabulary that natives are using for that. So you're learning it all in English the same way natives do. So let's say you don't live around natives or you don't know anybody who is a native. It's really easy to get this information on YouTube or, I mean, pretty much any other situation. But what you're looking for is actual natives doing things or saying things, talking about whatever. And I find it more helpful, especially for me, but I recommend this as well, to find people doing something and talking about it. So it's a little bit more difficult if it's just two people talking without any context, unless the point is to learn conversation specifically, like what we do in Fluent for Life. But I mean, we have lots of actual examples of people doing things as well in our videos. But let's say I go to YouTube and I want to know how to speak naturally about growing roses. I can watch tons of different videos of native English speakers talking about growing roses, and this is the exact same thing or the same way that a native speaker would learn this. Now, the difference here, what I want people to do is use naturally varied review, and I talk about this in the book and how I thought of this idea, because what people often do in addition to this is they will begin with their native language, then they will learn some English vocabulary, and then they will repeat that again and again. So I will try to learn something. So I begin, like, let's say I have a Japanese. I want to say hello. I'm thinking konnichiwa, and then I go into English, like hello or good day. And then I just repeat that. I try to say that phrase again and again. Now, in real situations, the way natives learn, they're actually getting varied examples of these things. So what I recommend for you, you go to whatever your interest is. I just use the rose example because I like gardening. I don't even really like roses that much. I don't know why I use that example a lot, but excuse me. So we're talking about growing roses, and I will find on YouTube some native English speakers talking about growing roses. And I can get very specific with this too. I could think, okay, just generally how to grow roses, or even how to grow a particular kind of rose, or the specific steps. Do I want to grow a rose from seed, or do I want to learn how to cut them or design something, like make a decoration, something like that? So whatever it is you're interested in, now it's very easy to find that information for free right here on YouTube. You can also find it in other places. It could be TV shows or something, but the reason I recommend YouTube specifically, or it's not necessarily YouTube, but there is a lot of content on YouTube and it's easy to find things, but I just recommend people watch a lot of short content. So instead of trying to watch a whole movie, it's much better to watch maybe 5 shorter video clips about, whatever that particular topic is. So this is how you can learn the same vocabulary that natives use and what's natural to use when you're in a particular situation. Okay? So I do talk about this in the book, but I have made videos about this as well. But that's the basic idea. So if you're, again, trying to think through a translation and then learn into English and then try to repeat, like, this is going to be a very frustrating process for you, and it's going to stop you from speaking, because the real communication situations are always unique. So it's an unexpected thing or an unpredictable situation. You never know exactly what people will say. So if I'm in Japan and I learn, like here's the bara, so this is the Japanese word for rose. There is a kanji for it, which I can't write, but typically you will hear Japanese or just like see it like that. So bara, and in English I might say rose, and then I'm going to repeat something like that. But when you get into a conversation, people might say something different. They might express it in a different way, or I'm talking about different kinds of roses or doing something with roses or whatever. There's a lot of things, a lot of variation in the real world. And so to prepare for this is why we need to get not one situation, but a couple of related examples, which will teach us a lot of this. So I made a whole video that shows you how to do this, just a specific example. I talk about it a lot, but if you go right to my channel, so you're already watching one of my videos, after this video, or even immediately if you like, you can go watch the other video about making espresso in English. So how to make espresso. So this is a video I made, just an example of naturally varied review, where you will start with an idea, like how to make coffee, and then we want to see a few different people doing this. And I just use 4 different examples of different people making espresso. And so I can hear the specific vocabulary they use. Sometimes the vocabulary will be similar. Like everybody, I think, in the video used the word tamp, which is something I did not know, because and even me as a native English speaker, I know the word tamp, but I did not know it's something that people use when they're talking about making espresso. And to tamp something is typically when you're making espresso, you have this small container with the espresso, the coffee grinds in it, and you press them down a little bit like that. This is called tamping it down. So you press it down. I don't know like specifically how much you want to do that, because I don't make espresso. I'm not really even much of a coffee fan anyway. But when you're seeing a lot of examples like this, you will see some things like the word tamp used again and again, and then you will think, oh, this is a common word. Probably it's important, and I will learn it naturally, because as I'm seeing these examples of people tamping something down, you come to anticipate that. So you know what the vocabulary is, not because you're speaking, but because you're seeing these other people give these examples of the vocabulary. So there will be some other words that maybe only one person uses, but some words many people will use. But the point is, if I watch a bunch of different videos and I can learn about that, then that's how I can be prepared for conversations even before I speak. Isn't that cool? So especially a lot of people, I'll mention this last kind of teaser about the book, but if I can contrast again the typical way that people learn versus what I recommend and what I do personally. So the typical way that people are learning a language is they have an idea that like I have to speak, so speak to gain, let's see. So the basic idea is people think they have to speak to gain certainty. Well, this is what I call it. This is really the goal people are after. People will call this confidence or the ability to speak. But basically what we're talking about is certainty, because if you don't feel certain in your conversations, you're not going to speak very well. So the idea is that you speak to gain certainty. But the problem with this is if you don't have anyone to speak with, or you're too shy. So if I need to speak to get certainty, like I'm kind of going around here like speak to get certainty, and we're going like around like this. If I'm unable to speak, then how do I get certainty? How do I actually learn the language and become a fluent speaker? I'm stuck. But I do basically the opposite, where we try to gain certainty to speak. So pardon my not so nice writing here, or not so clear, but again, it's the opposite. It's a pretty simple shift when you think about it, but the typical way that people are doing things, they try to learn and then they try to speak, and hopefully at some point they develop fluency. But for many people, this doesn't happen. And often if they don't have anyone to speak with, they feel stuck. Maybe they don't have any time to practice speaking, or they don't have anyone to practice with, or even if they do, even if they're trying to speak, they still just make a lot of mistakes and they don't feel more confident. So instead of trying to force yourself to speak, it's much easier just to gain certainty first by seeing lots of examples of how natives actually communicate. And this is the same way natives would do it. The only difference between what a native does and what I do is I'm much more systematic about it. So I can actually get fluent faster than a native by being more systematic about how I get examples. So if you think about how children are often learning languages, typically they just get an example of a word, but they might not understand what it means. And it might be even years before they understand something. Like I remember watching the movie Mad Max when it first came out. This is back in the 80s, and they used the word embargo. And I thought, wow, that's a cool sounding word, but I didn't understand what it meant. And then years later, I heard the word and I finally understood it. But that was many years before understanding the word embargo. And so what we're trying to do as learners of a language as an adult is we can control our learning, and we can start getting those examples to really help ourselves understand the language much faster. The faster we gain certainty, the faster we speak. So that's the idea of the book. Anyway, so it will be coming out as soon as I can. I'll be working on it today, actually. But the point, yeah, I'm trying to get there as quickly as possible. But maybe I might have a version of it maybe next week. I think I could. So Ruber, if you're on my list, then you should get a notification about that. I'll probably mention it on YouTube as well as soon as I have a version up for the first learners to join and get the book. So let's see. I'm thirsty to speak English. So Eamon, you would say, I'm hungry. I'm hungry to speak English. But again, like we're talking about, being hungry is more of a positive thing. Thirsty is you're trying too much, or you're working too hard, or you're trying to impress somebody. So the meaning is a little bit different there. So I'm hungry to do something. When it's a positive thing, you're hungry about it. Let's see. Miguel says, teen, go pick up a son in my cool low. Teen, go pick up. I don't know what that means. Mike says, English is so easy. Yesterday I was wondering. Oh, wondering? Do you mean wanderingly means moving around? Do you mean wondering why German complicate to get things through? Yeah, German is an interesting language too. Let's see. So Tarek says, Eamon, didn't sir mention that thirsty has a negative connotation? Yes, so that's why I'm addressing that. Can I ask the same question using present perfect? Hasn't sir mentioned that thirsty has a negative connotation? Yeah, yes, so I did mention that, but again, I'm giving the explanation as well. So Abdo also asking about the book. So it should be, hopefully, if I can get a version of it done as quickly as I can. I'm trying to do a really good version. I don't want to just get a bad version out quickly, but I know a lot of people are waiting for the book, so I'm working on it and trying to get it done as quickly as possible. It's an interesting process, though, working on the book. So I write something, and then I have a good idea, and then may I have to go back and change something or move chapters around. And so the beginning of the book, or when I started working on it last year, it's a very different book today, which is interesting. But I think people will enjoy how it works. It's more told like a story kind of framework rather than me just telling you what to do. Because for me, that's been like the books that have been powerful in my life for me learning all kinds of things have typically been good stories rather than just here's a thing and you should go do that. And I'm also trying to make it very accessible. So I'm not going to be talking about a lot of linguistic stuff in there. It's really just giving everyday explanations about how people can learn and really get fluent much faster than most people think. Jelton says, good evening, Drew. What is the difference between should and supposed to? Maybe I made a video about that on my channel, but I don't want to maybe I'll get into that later if you have a question, but you should check. There should be other examples of that, even other people talking about that. Let me know if you find those, and if they don't give you a good enough explanation. So Tarek knew, I thought it means that you need something very badly. Yes. So again, there's a nuance here between being hungry for something and being thirsty for it. So like you need something very badly, but it's typically just something you want. It's not like I'm thirsty for a college degree. I'm hungry for a college degree, maybe. If I feel I really need one, or I'm hungry for a good job, or I'm hungry for a better life, or something like that. But thirsty typically means you're trying too hard or doing something where you're kind of doing it too much. Azra says, hello, everyone. Unfortunately, I haven't been around since the beginning of the broadcast. It's okay. You can watch it later. Bayo says, Drew, I'm still not confident using the word look up, like look up in a dictionary. Is it like I'm looking above or something? Yeah, it's an interesting idea where you try to think about it more. Like this is actually like a good use of a phrasal verb here. And often when we think about like trying to understand vocabulary, we as adult learners, we tend to think about it logically. And this is another good reason why we want to get lots of good examples of things if we can. But just for this one specifically, Often when natives put like something like look up, or I was using this last night at dinner, eat up, like I could be talking about eating something, make sure you eat up your food. I could just say make sure you eat your food, but eat up has a kind of sense of completeness to it. And here, when I'm talking about look in a dictionary, I could just mean look for something in a dictionary. So I can look for a word, or I can look look in a dictionary also. But like to look up in it, like it's an interesting use of just meaning the word search. So I don't really know why we would do it like looking up. It's not like necessarily looking up, although maybe you could use that as a way of thinking about it. But because we don't like, and another way to think about this is we don't look down. We don't look something down. We look it up in an interesting way. But I can't explain why we talk about that. I don't know, maybe I'd have to think about that. And this is one of the kind of interesting things about doing these videos live is as a native speaker, I'm trying to think about why we say look something up. And especially if there isn't an exact reason, but it could probably, and I don't know the origin of the word, but it could be something like looking at a physical example, like a poster or something on a wall. So maybe the poster is at a higher level than you, and you're looking up, trying to figure out what something means. So it could be coming from something like that. But the point is more, even if that's not where the word actually came from, you can still use that idea as a way to help you remember it. Okay? So you can think about it instead of looking something up in a dictionary, like you're holding your phone, or a dictionary like that, and even if your eyes are looking down, you could think about like I'm looking up, the names on a poster or something like that. I'm trying to figure out what something means as a way to talk about searching for something. But that's the basic idea. So I apologize, I can't give a specific reason for this. Like it's different from something like, let's say we're talking about hanging up a phone. And in that case, I can't explain why we use hang up, even though we're just pushing a button. And this is because years ago, phones were actually up on a wall like this, and you would take the phone down and you would talk on it like that. And after you're finished, you hang the phone back up. That's why we hang up a phone. Although now we're just usually pushing a button, but we still use that word. So it's an interesting thing. You might look up the origin. I don't know, ask Google or ChatGPT. Maybe they can tell you. But remember that the point is more to try to understand something, and as a kind of interesting thing for non-native speakers of a language, when you are a child and a person just tells you something, you hear those examples of words again and again over time, and you just accept what they mean. So even the word look by itself, like I'm looking, and you could ask me like, Drew, why do we say look? Or why do we even choose like that particular word or that sound or whatever? And there's some things you just have to accept. But yes, if you can find an origin story or create your own origin story that helps you understand something and use it fluently, that's fine. But it certainly is an interesting example of that. All right, did I miss anybody else here? Taco says lots. George, it says smuggle Taco, lots of phrasal verbs that are using parts of body in English. Yeah. Marcus says, hi, Drew. I'm glad to hear about you or hear you again. I've been stuck in my English progress. I can speak with fluency, but I know I don't do it super well, and I don't get some words from young guys and natives. So you speak fluently, though? It looks like there's some errors in your writing, but do you feel you communicate well? If you do, that's great. But often people they think they know things, but they really don't feel certain about them. And that certainty is the important thing that a lot of people are missing. That's why that's the subject of my book. Let's see. Coach Carlos says, hello from Dominican Republic. Olga says, hi, dear Drew. What does it mean? I'm in the soup. I'm in the soup. I don't know. that's interesting. I've never heard that phrase before. I'm in the soup. Google that and see what you get. Often when you hear phrases like this, try to connect that again with some kind of situation, like the vocabulary by itself. I'm in the soup. I don't know. I could think of a few things, but I don't know. So you might want to look that up. Could you send hello to Sandra from Mexico? There you go. C says, I got aha moments many times from you, yet I have some time to recall it particularly as speaking. What do you mean? So you're saying you did learn, but you could, and yet I have some time to recall it particularly as speaking. Are you saying you do or you do not recall it? As it says, yes, it is possible to watch the broadcast later, but it is more fun to be in the live broadcast for me. Yes, I think there's that little bit of psychological part there. Keiko, nice to see you there. Even in Japanese, we can't really write the kanji for bada. Yeah, I know. I write it in katakana too. Yes, yeah, I'm not worried about that. This is how people typically write it. And even if unless you saw the kanji next to a flower, people might not know even what you're talking about. But yes, ohayo gozaimasu to you as well. What does it mean off the hook? It depends on the situation. But if you're talking about phones in that example, typically the phone would be hanging on the hook. And often when you're done with a conversation, if you forget to hang up the phone is maybe just hanging down somewhere and you forget to put it back up, then you will get that dial tone like dee dee, or it'll make some kind of sound. So oh no, someone didn't hang up the phone. So the call ends. You're speaking with someone, maybe they hang up the phone, so they end the conversation, but you do not. You forget to actually put the phone back up on the hook. So in that sense, it's off the hook. But remember, when people ask me, like, Drew, what does this phrase mean, or what does this vocabulary mean? I will go back and ask you, where did you hear that? And not because I'm being lazy, but because, number one, words will have various meanings depending on the situation. Like even off the hook could have a more slang term where it's like, wow, that thing is like really cool. It's like very different from what's normal or whatever. So that thing is off the hook or off the chain. That's kind of more slang for younger people. You don't really hear that in a business or professional context very often. But again, that's the kind of thing where I'm trying to get people. I know as a language learner, especially an adult who has probably been learning English or even other languages for many years, when you're trying to learn a language as an adult, you're really focusing on individual words and often trying to learn through translations rather than trying to understand things like a native. But that's what causes a lot of the issues with communication. So when you hear a word and you just have a word by itself, that word or phrase doesn't often mean anything, or it's not very clear exactly what you mean. But if you hear and see a situation like a phone, there's like many years ago, you would have a phone, and then you would have the actual phone part that you hang up, and then it would have a little cable or something like that going into the box where the phone is. So if you forget to hang it up and now the phone is just hanging down here instead, oh no, the phone is off the hook. Somebody left the phone off the hook. So we have to put it back up on the hook because it's almost like there's an actual hook where the phone goes. So that's where we get the idea of something being off the hook, all right? But we could also be talking about fishing, like something like a fish got off the hook. So we caught a fish, but then the fish got off the hook. That's another example, unrelated to this, but they both have some kind of hook in that way. So when you're learning vocabulary, try to think about where you hear something. So like, hey, I heard this phrase. So I asked my daughters like where they hear things. So an example that I shared, what was that? The video I made, how to speak fluently about almost anything. Has been a very popular video, interestingly. But in that video, I think, I haven't seen that. Well, I don't really watch my own videos, actually, but from what I remember, in that video, I'm giving a story about my daughter Aria, and how she heard an expression, or it was like a particular, what was the phrase or vocabulary? Now I'm kind of blanking on that. I'm blanking, to blank on something. Like I'm kind of forgetting that. But the point was, she had, oh no, the word was harsh. That's right. I remember now. So she asked me, we were walking to school, and she said, hey, what does harsh mean? And kind of like a student, she hears a word and I'm trying to explain to her what it means, but I say, well, where did you hear that? And so again, I'm trying to help her make those connections in the same way I'm trying to help you make those connections as well. So trying to think, where did you hear that? What was a person doing or the situation when they used a particular kind of word? And this is a switch I made myself. I talk about this in the book, where instead of trying to focus on the vocabulary like a student, I switched to focusing on situations and trying to look at even something very simple. What does a Japanese person say or do when they stretch? Even something like yeah, like what does a Japanese person do, and how might that be different from what a English speaker does? But anyway, so she asked me, what does harsh mean? And then I got to give a couple of examples and stories, and she explained, oh, like I heard that when one person was kind of saying some mean things to someone else, and the other person said, don't be so harsh. I said, okay, so now we have a clue. We understand a little bit better about like what harsh means or what some kind of vocabulary means for that situation. And so I just gave her some more examples. Like if I'm outside, it's a sunny day, the sun is really harsh today. I need some sunglasses. Or I might have some harsh wind. If the wind is really blowing very hard and this is some harsh wind. Or I might use some harsh words with someone. If I'm yelling at them saying like you're like a bad person or you did something stupid or whatever. So as you get those examples, yes, also talking about like harsh soap. So that's another example I gave. And so when you're getting those examples, I'm trying to help her make that connection, give her that aha moment of understanding what harsh means. That way she can use it, and now she understands and she can use the vocabulary. So if you're still not using particular vocabulary, you're still unsure about things, it's usually because you're not certain about whatever that thing is. So get some more examples or find out from somebody. But the most important thing is, if you're just trying to ask what does specific vocabulary mean, remember when you're watching or when you're hearing something or you read it somewhere, try to think about the situation where that thing comes from. Ruber again, I was watching a movie and I heard a native say he might be my penance for things I put my senior through. How can I make sense of this? Yeah, so this is like, this is a difficult thing for people to do, especially when they want to. It's like you're an adult, you want to watch adult movies about something like that, but when you're thinking about a really difficult sentence, and that's like very easy for me to understand because I know all the pieces of that. But if you're trying to watch content that's too difficult for you, then of course you're going to have these issues with like, I don't understand what this means. So that probably means you should go back to something easier that you can understand at least 80 to 90% of, so any new vocabulary can be integrated much more easily. So if you're like, how do I make sense of this difficult vocabulary? I would actually say, why are you trying to make sense of that difficult vocabulary? Go find some easier content and make this job a lot simpler for yourself. So like I could go through and break that down for you, but it would be more of an intellectual thing where I'm trying to make it as easy as possible, but the easiest thing really is just to go back to a lower level. And it's really hard. I know, like for myself, giving advice to people about how to learn, it's difficult for me to say, hey, go watch some TV shows for kids. Because people don't want to hear that. They say, well, I want to understand, this like really difficult thing. And I say, why? Like what is the function of that? Like if you can watch a movie, but you don't really understand what's happening, and so you need to look at a dictionary all the time, or you need to ask lots of questions about things, is that really an enjoyable process for you? Is there a reason you need to know that difficult vocabulary? Are you using vocabulary like that in your everyday life? You often might find something in a movie, but natives will probably not say something like that. Even like a penance for something else, it's like, you're kind of being punished for doing something. So like just to look at your example very quickly, if you're talking about like, if I have to do something now, that's my penance for some maybe bad thing I did in the past. But if you don't know what that means, if you don't have any reference for that, or even something like senior year, where that's probably talking about senior year, it's like the high school fourth year or the college fourth year grade, then all of those different pieces, it's like I've tried to give you a whole bunch of Japanese right now, and then and like if I could start speaking Japanese to you, and it would just be too difficult if you don't know any Japanese at all. And you would say, well, I want to understand difficult Japanese. And I just say, why? For what reason? Why are you trying to jump directly to like more difficult stuff before you really understand those smaller pieces? So for me, that was a big switch I had to make. Also, I'm always, like everybody else, I want to know more interesting vocabulary. I want to use some, impressive things or understand more difficult stuff in conversations. But a lot of the time, it's just not actually useful for developing fluency. So if your goal is developing fluency, fluency requires certainty about the individual pieces of the language. So you start making sure you understand those things, and then you can expand to thinking about more interesting like situations, or even more difficult things, like how does someone talk about, like that example that you gave. But you don't just jump all the way up to that level. You have to go through the steps in order to understand that. So that's the easier way to do it, and it does get faster over time because you actually understand things. But if you're trying to watch a difficult movie or read a difficult book because you don't understand most of it, it's probably going to be a frustrating experience for you. So hopefully you will take my advice, and this is the same thing I talk about in the book. It does work quickly if you do it, but I know people are always excited to get up to some higher level, but I've had many experiences, not only speaking with people in person, but just getting lots of mails and questions and comments from people where I can see that they know a lot of English, but even with basic errors, even looking at the comments in this YouTube video right here, I can see people who know a lot. They can understand me, but even there are still basic grammar errors, or using the wrong spelling or the wrong vocabulary, whatever. And I understand. I'm saying if you focus on that, it's kind of like learning. You're getting the basic building blocks first. So I really need to know how to use these basic building blocks first, and then I can see how they connect together. And this is exactly what happened to me. So as I start learning something, like another example, I think I'll probably put it in the book, is where like I had been learning, so doing some Japanese gardening, and I learned like the word for moss. So the word for moss in Japanese is koke. And the word for ball, like I knew that, like kids playing, like a basketball or whatever, is tama. And so I went to a gardening show, and I heard the example of a koke dama, which is a kind of moss ball like that, sometimes with a little flower or other kind of plant on it, and it usually sits on some kind of tray like this. So this is a koke dama, like a moss ball. And I remember when I discovered that, it was like that aha moment. Look at that. Like I know that word, and I know tama, and I understood like tama becomes dama when you connect it with something else like that. And so I understood the new word in Japanese without anyone needing to explain it to me. Isn't that cool? So here is an example, like if someone had just told me like this is a koke dama, and I didn't know anything about it, if a Japanese person just said like, kore wa kokedama desu yo. Okay, it's just like a word to me. I don't understand what that means. But because I understood the pieces first, I was able to make that connection myself. And so when you make those pieces stronger, adult learners are always trying to get to the difficult words, but they often don't understand the pieces very well, and that's why it becomes a frustrating process for them. Okay? So please take my advice, especially if you have been trying for a long time, you're watching movies about difficult stuff. Like, I want you to get fluent. I want you to get fluent quickly, but I promise this is one of those things, like if you take one step back a little bit more slowly, I promise you will move more quickly. You really will. Because again, just like this example, it's like I learned 3 things by learning 2. Okay? And there are other connections I can make in the same way. So I might even learn, like, I know the word like yama is mountain in Japanese, and so I learned like yamagoke. So if I put koke at the front of this one, like koke becomes goke, yamagoke. So there's a different specific kind of moss on mountains like that, like mountain moss. And again, another thing I discovered just by making those connections. So if you have really strong understanding, you feel certain about things, it's the certainty that unlocks all of that other use for the more advanced things. And that's why I can now have conversations in Japanese, and I don't have to understand everything. And my Japanese is not perfect. I'm not even a good reader of the language still. I'm still very slow. But I can communicate with anybody, and I feel very confident doing it. All right. So it's the certainty from the pieces that delivers that. You guys are getting a big preview of the book in this video. I've talked about a lot of these things before, but I think it's useful for people, again, to get this repetition in slightly different ways. All right, as I says, I think live streaming stimulates learning more, the desire to understand, and the ability to perceive. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. It's another psychology, like especially if you comment because you think I'm going to read the comment and we will have a discussion about it, you being more active could stimulate more of that. Like there's a good argument for that. And let's see, JH, let's see, hello, I'm watching from Aomori in Japan. Ohayo gozaimasu, nice to see you there. Chrono Ghost says, how to confidently use in, on, at, spontaneously in a conversation. I made a lot of mistakes in conversations. Watch my videos about that. I have videos about those specifically and prepositions in general. But again, just like I talked about, seeing lots of examples of these things is what really helps you. It's not about trying to study the rules. You want to internalize the language. You want to acquire it naturally by really understanding things and getting lots of good examples of that. C says, I can't use it as soon as possible. It depends. Well, give me an example. Give me some more examples of specific words. So remember, like the aha moments, typically those are for helping us understand things, but I still recommend you getting more examples to make sure you really feel confident about using them. So I might notice things all the time in Japan where I learn some new vocabulary, but I still forget it. I make the connection like, I understood something. But then I forgot it because I didn't, review the word at all or use it again or anything like that. So the review of something, the naturally varied review, is useful for learning, but also for continuing to learn these new things and review them. Hey, Sam, is my first time. How are you doing? I don't know if you're talking to me or not. Let's see. That sentence seems cool. Yes, again, like the idea of language, like, wow, that's a cool sentence or something like that. Like, yes. And again, there are lots of things seem cool. It's like if I go to a skateboarding competition and I see a guy, he goes on the skateboard and he goes on the ramp and he jumps up and he flips the skateboard around. I say, wow, that's pretty cool. I'd like to do that too. So I go get a skateboard and then I try to get on the big ramp and I jump down and I'd break my ankle or whatever. All right, so this is basically what happens when people are trying to do something above their level. You can do it. It's probably just going to be frustrating for you. It's much faster and easier if you take a little bit of time. And I promise you, I do this. I'm sharing like too much of the book right now. I want to make sure people can enjoy it and they will go back and read these things. But I think it's important. This is all stuff I've shared before. But I'll just make this point one more time. I'll probably have to make it again later as I do, but it's okay. Often people need to be reminded of things, just like you need to be reminded of vocabulary. It's not just understanding the vocabulary in the moment. You need to be reminded. All right, so here's my very simple chart here. I don't know exactly how I will do this in the book, but it will look something like this. So this is your skill level. Or we can talk about fluency, I guess, in the language learning case, and this is time over here. So when people are typically learning, like what adults want to do, they want to learn as much as possible. I want to try to get a whole bunch of words, remember a whole bunch of vocabulary. I get my phrase book, and people told me learn 500 words really quickly, so I'm trying to do that. But what happens is this quickly levels off, and we get to that plateau. So a mountain keeps going up, but a plateau stops, and then you start going sideways. And many people get stuck here for years. So they've been learning English for a long time. They keep trying to add more words, but they're wondering, why am I not speaking more fluently? This doesn't make any sense. I'm still learning more. Shouldn't I be speaking better? And no, the truth is that if you're not getting certainty about the vocabulary you're learning, that's why you're not improving. You can continue to add more words and you're probably not certain about those new words, and you're probably forgetting a lot of things as well. So you can understand a lot because you have added more, usually a passive vocabulary, but you're probably not going to be a better speaker. Now, what I recommend, the actual way is my way is it seems like it's slower at the beginning. So it starts out slower like this, but what? Look at that, boom. You start making way more progress, much faster. So yes, at the beginning it's slower. You know, if you can wait a day, I can get you fluent faster. But many people are like, okay, we got to learn 100 words as quickly as possible. So I want to study 100 words. Look at that. I'm starting English. I'm feeling very confident. Yes, it's exponential growth. And the reason it's exponential is because you're making connections that build on each other. Okay? Typically, when you're learning the traditional way, you learn something and you're not really building connections that help you use it fluently. You might learn some, but again, it's more like I remember something, but I'm not using it fluently. All right? But what I do, like the koke dama example I just gave, so I learn koke, but I understand it. Like I see examples I'm doing, like playing with this moss, and I learn the word koke. And then I learn like tama over here, and then I'm able to make a connection up here, like, oh, look at that, koke dama. You know, like it's a moss ball. I understand what that means. And so as I go through and I'm getting more and more of these examples, I'm making more connections because I understand the language better. I'm speaking much sooner than a regular person who's been learning for many years. And I'm able to do this even faster than a native. If you start me here, and you start a baby here at the same time, like a baby living in Japan, learning Japanese, like I would get fluent much faster than that baby, for sure. Especially now that I understand how to learn. And I would do it even faster if I had a good teacher who could explain to me things in Japanese. I haven't really found that, and even a lot of examples on YouTube are still just videos of teaching people stuff the traditional way, like giving me translations in English, or they're trying to explain rules instead of helping me understand things and really understand it. All right, so if you can get this, if you don't have a teacher, if you're not like learning with me in Fluent for Life, or you're not using Frederick or whatever to improve, the next best way to do it is by getting lots of good examples, which let you do this yourself. But the important thing is to do it at your level. You don't want to try to make it super difficult for yourself. Make it easy. All right, so you start learning things like me. I learn, I might get a children's book. I go to it's really easy to go to the library. I can go to a physical library and they actually have the ages of reading material for different kids. I can start, wherever I start with, 8 years old. Like, what is an 8-year-old child reading? Oh, wow, this Japanese is too easy, or this Japanese is too difficult. I can find exactly what my level should be. I want to find something that's like, it's pretty easy. I can understand most of it, but there might be a few new words added in there that can help me build on that vocabulary. If I read a bunch of books, I'm going to learn that and understand the vocabulary, and not just the words, but I'm understanding the grammar and hearing different examples of how things might be used. I made a video about this. I think it's called These Books Get You Fluent in English, but it's just the same kind of idea, where I'm talking about looking at children's books and seeing different examples of things and how that works. But again, this is the idea. If you want exponential growth, then you have to give yourself the right conditions for that. You need certainty in order to start making connections with things in the same way a native does. All right? So what I call learning English as a first language, that's my approach, where we're trying to take native content but learn it in a systematic way. All right? So you want to make sure you find things at your level. So if it's too difficult, if you have a whole sentence in a movie or a book or a magazine or whatever, that's probably too difficult for you. Find something easier. Find something you should be enjoying it. Even if you don't really care about the topic so much, you probably can find something that you enjoy. But even if you don't, think about it more as just the process of understanding the language itself in the language, because it's a really cool feeling when you can understand new things all in a language. I tell another story in the book about how I taught myself some Korean, just like I was able to figure out some Korean in a Korean barbecue restaurant here in Japan. And that was a cool experience. And it was cool because I discovered this myself. Now, I know now about research about like why it's good to learn this way and how discovery is a really strong process and all of this, which I probably will not put in the book because, I don't know, it's not really necessary. I think when people start feeling the examples in the book, they will understand more that this is a good way to learn. But basically, the book is offering an alternative to what people typically do, which is learning a little bit, trying to speak or not speaking and getting stuck and then hoping they become fluent. But that's where they end up on this plateau. They don't really understand things very well. They don't feel certain about what they're using, and that's why they stay stuck. All right. Let me get through here. What time is it now? All right, been going an hour. Oh my goodness. Look at that. No Japanese English, please. All right, let me answer some last couple of questions here. I think my voice is learning, or not learning, it's getting a little bit weaker here. Let's see, Bai says, like, turn on something even though we barely turn something now to turn it on. Yes, exactly, Bai. So a lot of language, it's useful if you can to get some kind of origin story about it. And I made, actually, for people trying to learn English my way, who are using maybe ChatGPT. So I made a video about that where I'm talking about how to learn English with ChatGPT, and that's a specific thing I tell ChatGPT to do. So I think I will probably put that same prompt in my book. But if you find the example of that, if you watch my video about AI, I talk about that same thing. Because even me now, I don't find AI is very useful for language learning unless I can really control AI and make sure it can help me understand things. I had a long conversation when I don't know, it was like 10 minutes or something, trying to get ChatGPT to help me understand a grammar point in Japanese, and it would like not work with me about, I was like, okay, here's how I want you to teach me this, and it was still just trying to explain things in a grammatical way. And it was like, it's the grammar point of like ikeba ikuhodo or like bahodo, that framework for the people who know Japanese. So in English, it's a slightly different construction, and these things are, often, quite different. If something is quite different in your native language and English, it can be trickier for you to understand. So better than trying to follow rules, that will typically make it more difficult for you. So better than doing that is to get lots of good examples or really like a good explanation that can help you understand things like a native. So getting a lot of good examples, that's what we focus on in the book. For the people who are interested in that, it will be coming out soon. All right, let's see. Hello, thanks from Russia, says Victor. Kumi says, good morning. I need more help. Oh, my goodness. Help with what? C says, harsh weather. Oh, okay, you got those examples. Actually, I want to explain the situation and how and where the word was used, but here's the limited letter in chat. Let's see. Really? There's a character limit for these chats? Maybe there is. I don't know. I've never tried commenting. C says, harsh words. Victor, I always watch you with great pleasure. Glad to hear it. Let me know. If you enjoy my videos, tell me why. I'd love to know specifically. I know people enjoy the videos, and I think it's because I'm helping you understand the language more like a native, but you tell me. Maybe if it's like you just like my shirts or whatever, then that might change everything I do about how I teach. So let me know. Anybody can answer that question. If you enjoy what I do, let me know why, specifically, if you can answer that. But thank you. I'm glad you do enjoy it. I'm just always trying to improve what I do. And so if I can get better feedback about specifically what people like about the videos, like I like when you do this, or I like how you help me understand this, or I like you have your hair done in a certain way, whatever the thing is that you enjoy, let me know. All right. Hi, teacher. I'm usually confused to use the verb here. Like I hear native speakers saying either just I heard something or I hear of something. May I please know what is the difference? Shine from Korea, or is it Shine? I don't know the pronunciation, but let me know. So I heard something or I heard of something. Well, if you heard something, that's typically we're just talking about a sound, or like I heard a bird doing something. Like I heard something on a movie. So I hear, like, just think about like the basic idea of hearing something. But when you hear of something or you hear about something, it's like, oh, like I know that story, or maybe I learned it, like I read it in a book or I heard it on TV or something like that, but it's more talking about your knowing about something like that. So like, yeah, like I have heard of that, like I know of that thing, because it's more like talking about an experience where now you have understanding of something. So right now you are hearing me, but if someone asks, hey, have you heard of Drew Badger on YouTube? You're like, yeah, I've heard of him. Like I know who he is. I understand, like I've heard of that person, or I've heard about him. Let's see. Oh my goodness, getting more comments. Mike says, I heard the other day about the guessing technique. I think it's useful. It sounds like you're guessing if the guessing technique is useful. I don't know what that is. You could let me know. Manolo says, Mwah, you are so handsome. All right, don't be thirsty over there now. Be careful. But thank you, if that's it. We were talking about that vocabulary earlier in the video. Libretto's fast facts. So a lot of reading won't necessarily make you a better speaker. Well, number one, reading is a way to get good examples of vocabulary, but in the real world, people don't speak clearly. People mumble, or you might hear difficult accents where it's just a different situation. So it's not like watching videos or reading or listening to podcasts or whatever. That's the wrong question. And this is another thing I talk about in the book, where instead of, this is like the whole book preview right here, the important question to ask is, will this give me certainty? So it's not like, is reading, like everybody focuses on these methods. And I did the same thing when I was trying to figure out how to learn. It's like, okay, I'm trying this method. Should I read, or should I watch something, or should I listen, or whatever? What is the right method to use? And it's more like, the truth is lots of these different things are useful, but they can also not be useful as well. And I talk more about why this works and what things are useful and what things are not useful, and how you can understand that very quickly and easily in the book. But the more important thing is, like, whatever you're thinking about doing, does it give you certainty? So that's the way of evaluating various methods and thinking, okay, reading is useful and it's helping me understand things, but when I'm in a conversation, the vocabulary is not clear because I'm hearing people and they don't speak clearly, or they have an accent that's hard to understand, or whatever. So again, like, reading is another good way to do things, but it's not like you get fluent by reading, because you still need to have those experiences in the real world that prepare you for that. So that's another good reason to get lots of examples of how natives actually speak in various situations. And that's what we talk about, like, I don't know, we talked about that a minute ago. Let's see. All right, I'm trying to go through these things. Let's see. All right. C says, what if someone wants to learn Hood's speaking style? Can it be learned through children content? What do you mean Hood's speaking style? You mean like in the hood? Like I'm like living in the hood or whatever? Like the neighborhood kind of hood? Like you're talking about that? Again, if you want to learn a particular thing, if I want to know how people talk in a barber shop, what should I do? I should go watch some YouTube videos about people in barbershops and see how they talk. If I want to talk about or talk in a particular way, I should spend time doing that. Like if I care about like speaking with a Texas accent, should I watch YouTube videos about people in Illinois, in Chicago, speaking English? Probably not. Like, is it maybe probably going to have some people with Texas accents up there? Maybe, I don't know, I doubt it. But if I watch some people down in Texas doing things, talking about stuff, I'm going to learn that a lot. So I can be very specific, especially now. When I was trying to get fluent in Japanese 20 years ago, I came to Japan and YouTube wasn't even a thing yet. YouTube was from, I think, 2006. So I couldn't go on YouTube and get a bunch of examples. I had to go physically actually be at places to hear things. Like I would sit at like a hotel lobby and listen to people checking in, or at a cafe and listen to people ordering stuff. But now you have all these resources available. You can do it yourself and get all of these examples. So it's quite easy to do it. But it doesn't matter what you're interested in. The point is, can you get certainty about that thing? So figure out whatever it is you're interested in, and then like go get that. So it doesn't matter. I mean, there's you can find topics and then you can get them at different levels. All right, it's pretty easy to do that. Alex says, AI development stalled at one point. The bigger the network, the worse it learned. After a certain threshold, intelligence began to grow again. Maybe language learning has a similar pit. I can't speak about how AI is learning, but I do know that AI is basically getting information and pretty good at combining things, but not thinking like at a higher level about, like when I'm trying to explain to AI about how to learn and in this different framework I'm talking about for explaining things, it like doesn't quite get it yet. But hopefully it would be awesome to train AI on my approach. So I would like to do that in the future. But I don't think this plateau is necessary for people. I think there's a whole mythology around language learning that just comes from people doing things a traditional way. And now people expect language learning to be a slow and difficult process. So when I come and I say, hey, I actually found here's an alternative way to do things. It's much faster, it's much easier, it's stress-free. Would you like to do that? And people are like, well, that sounds like a scam. You know, that doesn't sound real. It has to be difficult, doesn't it? It has to be a challenge. It should take a long time. And so that's why I have to write this book that explains all of this stuff step by step to make sure people can follow me in that process of changing the way they think, because I had to do the same thing. I had to go through a series of steps to help me understand like how I should be learning. So when I started, I thought it has to be a difficult and challenging and long process, but it actually doesn't have to be. And so going through this process, this plateau thing, it doesn't have to happen. So you don't have to be stuck. It's not that. But yeah, it's basically like a whole mythology talking around language learning like that. So it's an interesting point about learning, but. In Japanese, there are formal, plain, tate, etc. forms. Do you learn it by listening? Well, I learn it by connecting with different situations. Like if I see a father yelling at his son in Japanese, he's like, yamenasa, don't do that. You know, like he's talking specifically about like I understand the tense or like a grammar structure or whatever from how people use it. So I think, it's like yamete kudasai is like a more polite way to say it. It's like mo yamete kudasai. Like someone is, maybe giving me a compliment. I'm like mo yamete kudasai. Like yamete kudasai. Like I'm using a slightly different. But if I'm like yamenasai, like talking to my kids and saying don't do that, that's how you learn the vocabulary. It's not from a textbook. It's from actually feeling that. The feeling is the secret in a way where you're actually connecting the situation with the vocabulary. So I'm not trying to like look at a thing like, okay, the te form is you go here and here's how you make the te form. It's like, I don't know, I'm too stupid to do that, I think. Like I'm just not smart enough to learn in that way. And I tried for 15 years. I really tried hard. Like 4 different languages, I couldn't do that. I couldn't even do that with Japanese in Japan. But once I started thinking about things in a different way, I started asking some different questions about how I should be learning. That's when I started making progress. All right, so that's why I do the things I do. That's why I'm writing this book, to explain all this stuff. And I really hope people enjoy it. I really hope people like the format of the book and the structure and how I've laid these different pieces out. I think people will enjoy it. I hope they do, because I can't think of a better way to explain. And I've tried for many years to explain things, but there are not a lot, but there are a couple of different pieces that people need to understand, because it's almost like the people I'm trying to help, like a lot of you watching this video right now, it's almost like you've been in a bad relationship, or you've been in many bad relationships, over the years, like you've tried learning different methods or whatever, and now I come and I'm like the new boyfriend. I'm like, hey, like you want to go out with me, and you're like, no, like I hate men. Like I've tried this for years, and I'm like, oh baby, come on. Like it doesn't have to be like that, So it takes. I understand your skepticism and the difficulty that people have with language learning. So I understand. I really do. But that's why I'm writing the book. So it's a lot of things that I've been teaching over the years and figuring out the best way to explain, and I think this is it. So, Enolf says, watching from India, Alexander, good to see you again after some time, Drew. How have you been? I like your teaching. I'm doing well, working on the book. Nice to see you again. I'm here almost every week, especially working on talking about ideas. Like this is another good day, actually talking about more ideas from the book. All right, this guy stole my dog back in '94. Wagner, don't tell anybody about that. That's supposed to be our secret. Victor says, Drew, I would like to take this opportunity to wish you on behalf of myself and the entire Russian people health, love, and happiness to you and your entire family, your wife, and your little daughters. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, it's unfortunate, we had actually many members in Russia, and with the Russia-Ukraine war, we couldn't accept new members, and it was a real pain. And I was very frustrated about that. It's a shame when people can't learn, or things are difficult for people, not just the learning, but for lots of things like that. It's really unfortunate. Wow, English, anyone? It's been a long time. I don't know. I guess YouTube may not be telling people about these live videos, but what time is it? Oh my goodness, I've been here an hour and a half almost. Alexander again, I've been feeling those who move into an English community learn English better and quicker than learning outside such a community, but with you, I am beginning to think otherwise. Hopefully, if you think about what does it mean to live in an English community? Even a native speaker doesn't get a lot of good examples that help them really feel certain about the language. Often what happens with natives is parents are giving them all of these puzzle pieces, and the brain is working very hard to try to fit them together. It's actually pretty rare. Actually, maybe I won't say it's rare, but it's not everybody who is a native speaker learns at the same rate. So you have maybe some people who are smarter than others, I guess, but typically it's because the way that you teach isn't really giving people certainty about the language. And what I try to do is if you can watch content, you don't need to be physically with the other people. I don't need to spend my time speaking Japanese to become a good speaker. I know it sounds weird because this is what everybody tells you to do, but the important thing is to understand the language first. If you feel certain, the certainty gives you the confidence to speak. So instead of me living with a bunch of natives, which I do, I live in my house, I have native Japanese speakers, but even most of what I do is just listening to other people speak. I don't even spend a lot of time trying to talk and I do when I need to explain things, but most of the time I'm just learning from other people and just making connections. That's what I do. So I don't need to be physically with anybody. It's more about making the connections intentionally. And we can do that with tools like YouTube. So I know plenty of native or people from the United States or Canada or wherever who live in Japan, and they've been here for years and they still can't speak Japanese very well. So the location is not what determines whether you get fluent or not. It certainly can be helpful, but you really have to get the information in a structured way. It's more like you have a greater chance of getting information if you're around natives. But if I can do this same thing in America, just by getting lots of structured content, I can become a good speaker of Japanese even if I don't live around natives. All right, so the point is not to be around physical natives, but to spend time with native content in a structured way. That's what I talk about in the book. Let's see, and CNC says, how are you doing? Glad to hear you again. Excellent classes, glad to hear it. Let me know what you like specifically. Victor says, thank you so much for what you do for people. It's my pleasure. I really enjoy teaching. I like seeing that face people have when they get those aha moments and when they're speaking better. And, I met, actually, this was an interesting thing. A few days ago, I was coming home and I met a fan of my channel here who also lives in Japan. She just stopped me on the train and she was like, "Hey, it's you. I watch your videos on YouTube." And so it was a nice experience to meet somebody in person. It's like pretty rare for Nagasaki, but it's happened in various places that people watch my videos. I mean, I guess they're kind of popular, but I don't know, enough. It's happened a couple of times, and it's always interesting to just know that like people actually understood something better. But she said she liked my handwriting, which I thought was interesting because my handwriting is like, look at that. What word is that? I don't even, I can't even read my own writing, and people say I'm like a doctor because I write so badly. I should be a doctor. All right, I have a question. How can I use the word running? Watch my phrasal verb video about run, and that will help you. Dran says, I just noticed the video quality of your videos are better. Seems like you have a new camera. I appreciate you helping us. More power. Really? You notice that it's the same phone I'm using. Actually, I feel kind of behind the times a little bit. I am using it's an iPhone 8S, I think. And aren't we now on iPhone 16 or whatever? I think I stopped when they started adding 10 different cameras on the back of it. I just said, no, that's too much. I don't need all that. Maybe I'm old fashioned, but I'm glad to hear it. And C says, can we implement your method to understand heavy books like philosophy and much better? Yes, you can use my method to learn anything you want, but what am I going to say? What do you think I'm going to tell you? You can use my method to learn anything you want, but what am I going to say? I bet you can answer. Somebody can answer that. Somebody better answer that. Someone should answer that question. Duran says, or maybe the internet is better today. I don't know. I think it's probably your internet, but we'll keep that as our secret. So yes, you can use my method to learn anything you want, but I really want to make sure it's not necessarily be patient. It's just make sure you understand things. Like go in order. Make sure you understand things at your level before you try to push yourself to something else. Would I like to read philosophy in Japanese? Sure, I would. I think that would be a lot of fun. It sounds like a cool thing. It sounds even cooler if I can tell other people like, hey, I'm kind of flexing a little bit. Like, yeah, like I read philosophy books in Japanese. Like I can read that famous novel that other people read in the original language. Isn't that cool? But I'm also remembering, wait a minute, I'm not going to just get like what's the popular, I don't know, like a Murakami book, like it's like 1Q84 or whatever, something like that. And there are some, like popular Japanese authors who people back in the United States read. So if I could tell them, oh yeah, I enjoyed that book. I read it in Japanese. Like people would be like, wow, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty impressive, But I need to work up to that. If I just start reading that now, I'll probably understand some of it, but a lot of it will be like, what does that mean? Or like if I'm looking in the dictionary more than I'm reading the book, then I'm making a mistake. And so you can try to push your way through, but it's probably not going to be the best way to learn, and it's probably not going to help you build much fluency. Okay, I promise you, if you learn the pieces well and you go in a good order, you will move faster. That's like this example here. You want to read philosophy up here? Fantastic. Make sure you understand like in, on, and the first. Okay, so the, like the word the, this is like 7% of all written content is just the word the. So it means you should probably know it pretty well. You're going to see it a lot, okay? So philosophy stuff over here, like even spelling the word philosophy correctly. Like, I studied, I am a major in philosophy in college. And still, I want to go through the basics, all right? So it's not necessarily like one vocabulary at a time, but it's more, you're trying to expand your circle in a way that allows you to learn new content in the language you're studying. Let me say that again. If I'm learning Japanese, let's say I start with a small circle. I don't know how many examples of things or like specific words. It's not really important. It's more like, I know a couple of words and phrases. So I just come to Japan. It's my first day. I know a few things. I know like just a few examples. I want to try to expand this circle just a little bit by maybe reading some content that has some of these words and some new words in it. And then over time, I expand it again, where now I can read content that's got all these words plus these additional words in it. And this is how I expand out. But the point is, I'm able to do it all in Japanese. So I don't need to use English. If I try to go out here too quickly, wow, that's going to be a real challenge for me. I'll be like, look at all this vocabulary out here. It's too difficult for me to make connections. It's like trying to do a science experiment and we have too many variables we're testing for. We don't know what works and what doesn't. All right. So again, like take your time, go step by step. And if you do, the process gets faster. All right. That's the great thing about this. Again, like we want that exponential growth. We want to move more quickly. Go through it. I promise you, like it seems slower at first. Yes, I agree. It's slower at first, but it's the smarter approach if you want to speak. All right. We don't want to just learn a bunch of words. Hey, I know 10,000 words in Japanese, but I still can't speak. If my goal is to speak and not just to know vocabulary, then I'm probably doing something wrong. Okay. Now remember, it's not your fault if you do this. Like if you're here and you've been here for a long time, it's not your fault. This is the way pretty much everyone teaches. But now that you can control your learning, you can start doing things in a different way. And it's really easy when you make that switch. And that's what the book is talking about. All right. So I also talked about, I think somebody just asked me another question about that. Let's see. Yes, reading. Haruki, ne? Haruki Murakami. Let's see. I'm so happy because I came across one of my followers. He is from Japan. Nice. Yes, I'm reading. Oh, okay. Are you enjoying it? I've never read any of his books, but it would be a cool thing to read it in Japanese. Drew, how often should I review a vocabulary for me to retain it? Make sure you understand the vocabulary, so get a number of variations of it. Make sure you understand it well, that you feel certain. The idea is like you feel certain about the pronunciation, certain about how to use it, certain about how to spell it or whatever, all of those things. And it's not just about being certain for the vocabulary, we also have certainty for communication. So make sure if you hear other people use the word, do you hear it clearly? Do you recognize it? All of that. And so when you're feeling confident about something, you can probably move on to something else, but maybe come back to it sometime. That's again why we have this, we're expanding the circle of what we understand. So we're not trying to go too quickly out to things we don't understand because it's more difficult to understand new information if we don't have like enough of a foundation already. And so I think Bayu says, but does it actually make you certain? Yes. And so I talk about what makes you certain and what does not in the book. And I make it actually very, very simple, I think. So it should be an interesting book. I look forward to people reading it and sharing or getting their feedback. And hopefully when people read it, they think, oh my God, this is the most amazing language learning book I've ever read. Hopefully. So it's taken me a long time. It's basically 20 years of like information and techniques and how to help people improve. But I've distilled it down into a very simple story that helps you understand language learning. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you will probably know some of it already, but hopefully as you go through the book and have it all in one place, it should be very eye-opening for people. It should be very enlightening or interesting for people, especially if they've been learning for a long time and have been struggling, or even if they like what I do, but they want to understand why I do it. So it should make some things very clear and interesting. All right, CNC says, yes, I couldn't agree with what you said. I couldn't agree more, with what you said because this is the foundation of languages. Yeah. So again, like I don't want to tell people to learn like a native, it's true, but I'm trying to get you actually to be more efficient than a native. So we can get back to like, if I put a native on here, like a native is like, it's kind of like a, even more like that, especially if we're talking about a baby beginning. It's even longer process than that. But you could potentially, like if I had someone who knew how to teach me, or I could just kind of learn myself in this way, if I'm trying to learn Arabic or Greek or whatever, some other language, I could get fluent very quickly in that language, even if I'm not spending a lot of time speaking it. It's nice if I can, but it will be interesting. Any turn script, says Kim. Let's see. You're talking about the subtitles, maybe? The subtitles are not available for live videos, but they should be available tomorrow. So if you come back and watch this video then, you can get it. And then Stephen Krashen, I think he said language acquisition is simple, just school makes it hard. Yes, and I think like if Krashen read my book, that would be pretty cool if he read it, because like he's inspired me. Just he understands the same thing I'm doing, but Krashen is more talking kind of generally about getting comprehensible input. But I take it further where I'm talking about the purpose of the input is to get certainty. So when people ask me, I remember I had a few years ago a teacher from, I don't know, England or somewhere, just another teacher was asking me questions about stuff. And he's like, well, how much comprehensible input do we need? And asking me these questions, I was just like, well, it depends on the word. I mean, you might need one good story or maybe a few different examples. It depends on the information. But the point is, we're not just trying to get input. So a lot of people, if you look at language learning videos, especially on YouTube, people are talking about comprehensible input. It's like a buzzword, and it's true. Like we should be getting input. Like this is a visual understanding of what comprehensible input means. You begin with something. I mean, even if it's something very basic within the language itself, but you slowly expand out as you try to let new words into your world, if you could think about it like that. And so when you're doing that, you allow new information in, but it's information that you can integrate easily because you already have a foundation with the other words that you know. So you're expanding your circle, and this is what, I forget, I don't know, maybe he calls it, what's the term? It's like information plus one or something like that. It's the same kind of idea. But what I'm doing is I'm really getting to the core of why we do what we do, and it's to get certainty about the language. So it's not just a bunch of random input, and this is like, I'm not going to watch a random video about this and watch a movie about that and read a book about this other thing over here, because I don't just need input. I need to understand exactly what I'm learning. I need to feel certain if I'm going to speak. So a lot of people are the same way. Like they might know the vocabulary, they can understand it when other people are talking, but if they don't feel confident, if they don't feel certain about what they're going to say, then they can't speak. All right. And so what I'm doing is trying to get to the core of what we actually want. So to actually become a confident speaker, if you feel certain, then you speak. So it would be cool if Krashen read the book, and I would think Krashen would say something like, yeah, this is exactly what I meant. So I mean, I don't know if he would say that or not. Maybe he wouldn't enjoy the book, but hopefully you all do enjoy the book. I'm writing it for you. Manolo says, yes, I enjoy this moment just because I see you. With that is enough for me. I insist you are fucking handsome. Oh my goodness, Manola. You can't say that word on YouTube. Anyway, all right, well, that's good information. Does anyone else think I'm handsome? Because if I can just be handsome, that would be a lot easier. I can save my voice, and I can make those videos, like, I don't know if those are still popular, but they were just videos of like women make these videos of just like, you know, just looking at the camera, looking beautiful or whatever. I wish I could do that. That would be awesome. I would just not have to say anything. I'm getting like actually thirsty over here. Anyway, so yes, that's why I keep asking people, why are you watching my videos? What do you like about them? If it's just looking at me, then I don't need to say anything. I can just it'll be great. Let me know. I can have a whole series of that. I just wear a different shirt, or I'm in a different location, or something like that. Let's see. Exactly. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. Duran says, do you have a book? I'm working on it right now, and it should be out. Hopefully I'll have a version of it very soon, like within a week, maybe. I'm kind of pushing myself. I'm spending a lot of time writing it, but it's interesting because I'll work on something and I think, okay, I should put this part here or take this part out or whatever. Yeah, thirsty is making sense now. Well, it says, sorry, but it's true. Hope no bother with you. My crazy comments. It's okay. Manola Castillo. Manola Castillo. And CNC says, this happens when you drink water from Japan. Yes, it's specially designed water to make you thirstier, so you drink more of it, I guess. I think that's kind of fast food restaurants, or even drinking beer. Like drinking beer makes you thirsty, so you want to like drink more or whatever. It makes you hungry. The things are kind of combined in that way. Like salty food makes you want to get a drink. Sala says, hello, I want to speak like an American. What should I do with the accent? Yeah, just get more examples of Americans speaking. You can pick a particular kind of accent or region in the country and listen to that. Or if you want to listen to me, you can get Fluent for Life or Frederick. You can learn about both of those by clicking on the links in the description below this video. Ilder says, how's it going, Drew? It's going well. Nice to see you there. Emma says, I saw you always drink bottled water. Do you still drink water? There you go. Nice and easy. I'm probably getting those microplastics, though. Bai says, I like watching your streams because you explain how to gain certainty when learning English. Glad to hear it. So hopefully you are enjoying this. If you do, click that like button and also share the video if you know others who will speak. This is actually, I plan to share a few more things, but now my voice is just gone. But you can check in the comments or in the description below this video if you'd like a few more examples. It's great to learn new vocabulary, but I know like a lot of people still have questions about like the kind of foundational things that I often talk about, but that's why I'm making the book, and that should be out soon for people. But click on the links in the description if you'd like to learn more. Is it a pre-recorded video or live class here? It depends on when you watch this. Let's see. MBO says, why do I forget words when I speak? It's probably because you're not certain about them. You haven't reviewed them enough. That's typically why that happens. Keiko says, thank you for today's lesson. Arigatou gozaimashita. Madane. See you. Looking forward to the next. All right, everyone have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.